5:17 p.m., 3 Venezuelan patrol boats sliced through the Caribbean, fast enough to threaten, slow enough to be tracked by an American Seahawk circling overhead, every movement already counted. The USS Gravely's forward gun mount had come alive with a harsh metallic shudder. Steel moaned, the deck thrummed beneath heavy boots, and for a heartbeat, the entire ship seemed to hold its breath. Then the comms net broke the silence with 2 words that froze every sailor in place. Condition 3. No one needed an explanation. 3 unidentified contacts had appeared on radar, racing in from the southwest, their formation tightening, speed climbing. Across the tactical display, the symbols blinked one after another. Sierra 1, Sierra 2, Sierra 3, each tagged beneath a single flag. Venezuela. Up on the bridge, the captain hadn't raised his voice. He didn't have to. Orders moved through the decks like current through wire. Magazines unlocked, safeties cleared, helmets secured. In the Combat Information Center, the glow of radar screens painted calm faces in green light as operators tracked the approach. 3 fast craft, 28 knots, bearing 243, closing steady. The 5-inch gun on Gravely's bow had pivoted a few degrees to starboard. The Venezuelan patrol boats had stayed light on their wake, hugging the line of legality, keeping just within the narrow zone permitted by international law. They were playing close, and they knew it. Meanwhile, the ship's electronic warfare suite had come alive, sensors sweeping the electromagnetic spectrum, logging every blip, every pulse, every whisper of transmission. Up top, sailors had glanced toward a horizon still cloaked in pre-dawn gray. The sea lay flat and quiet, a sheet of dull metal beneath a sky waiting for sunrise. No shapes were visible. There were only streaks of motion slicing across the surface where stillness should have ruled. The crew had seen standoffs before, but never with Caracas this volatile, or with tempers this near ignition. At 5:18 p.m., contacts were within 12 nautical miles and closing fast. The operations officer had leaned toward the tactical display. Recommend classification, hostile intent, pending identification. Below deck, loaders had run feed checks on the 5-inch shells. The CIWS crews had brought the phalanx turrets online, the hydraulics whining through bulkheads like a living thing stretching awake. Every system hummed at the edge of readiness. The Navy drilled for encounters like this constantly, but no simulation ever involved another nation's flag flying so close. The helmsman had kept Gravely steady, threading her course through the invisible legal corridor of international waters, barely 3 miles of margin on either side. One wrong heading, and it would have turned into an international crisis. Binoculars had swept the horizon, but the sea still held its secrets. The vector on the radar told the story anyway. The Venezuelan vessels were steering straight for the destroyer's beam, not evading, but challenging. The captain had pressed the comm switch. Engineering, full turbine power on standby. Prepare to maneuver at short notice. Gravely's mission wasn't random. For weeks, U.S. destroyers and Coast Guard cutters had been rotating through the southern Caribbean under Operation Sentinel South, a joint interdiction campaign aimed at cutting narcotics and weapons routes traced to Venezuelan waters. Officially, it was maritime law enforcement. Unofficially, it was power projection. Just 4 days earlier, a U.S. Navy Seahawk helicopter had intercepted 2 high-speed boats near Curaçao, one destroyed after repeated ignored warnings. Caracas had called it aggression. The Pentagon had called it law enforcement at sea. Now, Venezuela was answering with steel on the horizon. The USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, ranked among the Navy's most capable warships. They were 155 meters long, equipped with the Aegis combat system and SPY-1D radar, capable of tracking more than 100 targets at once. Precision like that made these encounters deceptively fragile. One miscalculation and escalation could happen in seconds. The approaching Venezuelan craft had matched the silhouette of the Guaycamacuto-class patrol boats. Within U.S. Southern Command, such encounters had a name. Controlled friction, meaning they were a deliberate tension and carefully measured to provoke but not ignite. For the crew aboard Gravely, politics didn't matter. The range read 10 nautical miles and was falling. Every critical system aboard was alive, armed, and waiting. On the foredeck, the Mach 45 5-inch gun sat locked on a southwest bearing, its internal motors humming softly. Each 70-pound shell could travel more than 13 miles, accurate enough to end any chase with one command. Nearby, the Mark 15 Phalanx CIWS, a 6-barrel, radar-guided Gatling gun, spun to life, the faint whine echoing through the hull. Capable of 4,500 rounds per minute, it was the ship's final shield. Sailors called it angry steel for a reason. Inside the Combat Information Center, the Aegis interface merged radar tracks, sonar returns, and intercepted signals into a single synchronized picture. Every console displayed the same crisp data, bearing, range, vector, and closure rate. The SLQ-32V3 system listened in the background for any radar locks. The screen stayed quiet until the transmission broke in. Razor flight, deck ready. Up top, the MH-60R Seahawk crew, call sign Razor 21, prepared for launch. Rotor blades unfolded, tie-downs released. Every move was smooth, procedural, but the air had that charged stillness that came before history. The destroyer now stood one order away from a full combat posture. At 5:19 p.m., the Seahawk lifted from the deck, twin engines cutting through the dawn haze. Its mission was simple but sharp. Visual confirmation only, no weapons hot. Banking south, its sensors locked onto 3 fast-moving returns, which were small hulls, white wakes, and in a tight V formation. From altitude, the crew could make out national flags, sensor masts, and faint movement on deck. They were close enough to see faces now, but still just beyond the line that would demand a response. The encounter remained controlled for the moment. The tension hung heavy, invisible, and waiting. The lead vessel carried a long cylindrical mount aft of its bridge, likely a navigation radar or optical sensor. There were no visible deck guns, but absence didn't mean unarmed. The Seahawk's MX-20 turret had pivoted, switching to thermal mode. Inside the cabin, the sensor operator tracked heat signatures, 3 at the helm, 2 midship, 1 aft, all watching the destroyer cutting through the water below, steady, unshaken, and ready for whatever came next. Down on Gravely, the course had remained unchanged. The SPY-1D radar had traced the patrol boats with centimeter precision, yet the fire control system stayed idle. A radar lock would have turned observation into provocation, and no one aboard was willing to cross that line first. Instead, the destroyer had held its posture, projecting control without aggression. Above, Razor 21 had widened its orbit, a silent reminder that the U.S. Navy's eyes could reach anywhere. The standoff had continued, tight, quiet, and growing more tense by the minute. By 5:22 p.m., the range had compressed to 5 nautical miles, close enough for the Venezuelan crews to read Gravely's hull number off her gray paint, and close enough for the sailors aboard to feel the tension hanging in the air like static. From the bridge, a transmission had gone out. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States warship operating in international waters. You are closing the distance at high speed. Alter course immediately. The message had been repeated twice, once in English, then in Spanish. Silence had followed. Seconds stretched. Then a report had cut through from CIC. Lead vessel still accelerating. 29 knots, distance 4.8 miles. On deck, the Phalanx turrets had rotated just enough for the rising light to glint off their barrels. The 5-inch Mark 45 gun had traversed slowly, deliberately, making itself visible to the Venezuelan helmsman. The voice identified itself as a Venezuelan Navy patrol, warning that Gravely was operating near their territorial waters and demanding clarification of the ship's mission. The bridge had replied without hesitation, asserting that USS Gravely was conducting lawful operations in international waters and instructing the Venezuelan vessels to maintain a safe distance. The patrol boats had eased back slightly, slowing from 28 to 20 knots, yet they had held formation, shadowing Gravely's starboard beam at 3.66 nautical miles. The pattern had been textbook provocation, dangerous but measured. Every sailor aboard had known the unspoken truth. It's easier to start a war than to explain one. The rules of engagement, ROE, had governed every move. Under Navy policy, a ship could open fire only in response to a confirmed hostile act or unmistakable hostile intent. A fast closing speed wasn't enough. Even a radar lock might not qualify without a weapon cue. So Gravely had held steady, radar tracking, cameras rolling, missile cells sealed. What had made the encounter volatile was geography. Gravely had been sailing 14 nautical miles off the Venezuelan coast, well inside international waters, but close enough to feed political theater. Venezuela's Bolivarian security zone claimed extended maritime authority, a claim Washington had never recognized. That was why these encounters kept recurring, both sides technically right, both acting on interpretation. Legally, Gravely's position had been solid. Politically, it was a gray line. For the crew, sovereignty hadn't mattered, but survival had. One misread radar pulse, one twitch of a finger, and a routine patrol could have spiraled into crisis in under 10 seconds. That was the paradox of deterrence. You showed strength by holding back, and at that moment, restraint had been the sharpest weapon aboard. By 5:34 p.m., the Venezuelan vessels had begun a slow, deliberate turn east. No reply, no farewell, just a retreat that spoke louder than any transmission. Message delivered. Gravely had maintained course and speed, her systems recording every second of the encounter. Radar sweeps, radio calls, heat signatures, and weapon power states were all logged and encrypted for transmission to U.S. Southern Command before dawn. Overhead, the Seahawk had circled once more, its sensors tracking the patrol craft as they realigned, heading parallel to the coastline at a reduced pace. Then, Razor 21 had banked north, returning toward the destroyer's deck as the horizon flared orange with sunrise. In Washington, analysts would later dissect every frame. Was it a deliberate test of response time? A political message from Caracas? Or a reflexive show of defiance after a week of U.S. anti-smuggling operations that had humiliated the regime? For Gravely's sailors, none of that had mattered. They had done exactly what training demanded: stay calm, follow protocol, and prevent escalation. In the Caribbean, that was victory. No missiles fired, no lives lost, just silence. Every officer in the region understood what this had really been. A warning written in motion, not fire. Venezuelan patrols didn't drift into a U.S. destroyer's path by accident. Every heading correction had meaning. Every unanswered call had weight. Out there, hesitation and aggression balanced on the same edge. Next time, one side might drift a little too close, one side might blink, and that was how quiet friction became open conflict. The encounter had ended with the rising sun. The sea had returned to calm, but the tension lingered in the steel and in the pulse of every sailor aboard. The bridge, CIC, and flight deck crews had remained at their stations, eyes fixed on radar, knowing the game never truly ended. The Caribbean was still, but never safe. Gravely's sensors had stayed online, her weapons hot yet silent, waiting for the next test. For the men and women aboard, it had been routine, unseen, uncelebrated, but vital. For the outside world, it was diplomacy in motion, power without provocation, resolve without fire, and a quiet reminder that every action at sea carried consequences, and every heartbeat out there was measured in risk. Would you have held your course, steady against the pressure, trusting the calm to hold? Or would you have pushed the throttle, met the challenge head-on, and risked being the spark that lights the powder? Subscribe to see what happens when the next confrontation begins, when silence breaks, engines roar, and the balance in the Caribbean is tested all over again.